Hi, my name is Daniel Green. I'm a fire safety engineer with over 10 years' experience working in the construction and building industry. My current role is Principal Fire Engineer for Osborne Associates in the United Kingdom. At the moment, I'm leading the Manchester office, working on projects across all sectors, including but not limited to residential, historic buildings, offices, assembly buildings, museums, galleries, schools, hospitals, and care homes. Currently, I am sitting in the organisational chart as a principal fire engineer, as I said previously, heading up the Manchester office. I sit underneath the director, Phil Weird, who looks over the fire engineering team. Osborne Associates is a multidisciplinary company who provides services in the MEP, surveying, fire safety, and project management schemes. We also have a London office, we have a Glasgow office, and we have a Portsmouth office. Underneath me, I have two engineers who I currently mentor and lead through Manchester projects. My career aspirations over the next 5 years is to gain sufficient UK experience and return to Australia. I hope to bring my information I learn over here, working on British standards, European standards, and getting a good insight into those and bringing that information back to Australia. Hopefully within the 5 years' time, I'll be looking for a technical leadership role in a fire engineering company to really showcase my expertise across the Australian and UK industries. In 10 years' time, I'm looking to ease off the high pressure world of consulting. I'd like to take a role in business development or key account management, just to really lean on in and help on out there and to move away from the high pressure world. That will put me at the 20-year mark of consulting, and I think that's a good time to move on. In 10 years' time, I will be 60 years of age, and I will be looking to probably lean into semi-retirement by then. In 20 years, I'll be 70 and hopefully retired. So I'll frame this question for 15 years. Heading into semi-retirement, and I'd like to be working under an advisory role, probably part-time, somewhere in a beautiful part of the world called the Sunshine Coast. I do plan to be employed for my duration of the length of my membership, and as such, I will be able to remain financial. Also, I do have membership benefits through my salary, which I am able to support my financial contribution to the AIB. In regard to my academic qualifications, I'd like to touch on how they would relate to the building construction industry. I do have an engineering degree. It is in mechatronic engineering, with minors in robotics and mathematics. I covered such areas as mathematical modelling and simulation, which I find very useful to this day, as I do quite a lot of CFD modelling and am able to understand the nature of that from a simulation perspective. This was done during 2011 to 2015. I was a mature age student, and I did seek a change in my life at that point. I just want to talk about how the engineering topics are relevant to building design. As you know, in an engineering degree, your first year you do cover fundamentals of buildings, you do cover bending moments and shear forces and the like. And so I have from that gained a healthy knowledge of the structure of a building and how structure performs under load. More importantly, through my career, I've learned how fire can impact those. Further to that, there's a heavy focus on mathematics in my degree, which I have been able to apply to not only to engineering topics but to statistics as well, and to really understand statistics in regards to buildings and building occupants. So once I got through my engineering degree, I was able to have a good grasp on how they apply it to the building and construction industry. That was through projects I'd worked on, and not only that, but the networking that I made with other professionals during that time. But more importantly, what studying a mechatronic engineering degree did was it gave me a holistic mindset. So I was able to bring that holistic mindset through my degree and into my career, so I can understand the building as a whole. I can understand how electrical systems interact with fire safety systems. I can understand how landscaping is intertwined with access. So it really leans into fire safety, as fire safety is a holistic mindset, and I'm able to understand buildings as a whole. Following that, I did do a postgraduate course at Victoria Uni. I did do the graduate certificate in performance-based and fire codes, which is purely based on the performance and performance requirements of meeting those in buildings and the like. So I do have that postgraduate course under my belt as well, which funnily enough was the first year in the Masters in Fire for VU before they had cancelled that course. I was looking at doing the complete Masters, but that has since been removed as an option. So that's how a brief overview of how my academic qualifications relate to the building and construction industry. So, as discussed previously, I have just over 10 years experience in fire safety engineering, 8 of which were in Australia and 2 have been over here in the UK. So the first 3.5 years I was at a place called Omni Fire Consultants, both in the Brisbane and Melbourne office. I mainly worked on residential buildings for the first year or so, which included student accommodation. And then within the second year, I sort of moved to doing retail premises, warehouses, office fit outs and the like. Started wetting my teeth into CFD modelling, evacuation modelling as well. However, towards the end of my time there, I'd moved on to doing hospitals and assembly buildings, which I find to be some of my most favourite projects. I do like the challenge of a high occupant load building and really having a feel for what actually happens in emergencies. So the next year and a bit, I was over at a firm called Affinity in Melbourne, where I picked up some laboratory projects, Large Hadron Collider, some major shopping malls, some high-rise offices, aged care buildings, some dedicated car parks, hotels, defence and prisons. So I started really getting a good breadth on all sectors and all types of projects. At that point, I was tasked with supervising the graduate engineer at the Melbourne location. So not only was I getting project experience, but I was also getting management experience at that point in my career. So the following 3 years of that, I worked at WSP Melbourne. This is where I took on more responsibilities with complex multidiscipline projects, ranging from multi-building, high-rise sites, large grandstands and stadiums, rail and tunnel infrastructure, which I'll discuss a little bit later on. I also took on some more supervisory roles where I was supervising 2 junior members and mentoring them and acting in a sort of quasi-line management role, taking on that knowledge that I'd gained from supervising the graduate over there at Affinity. After my stint at WSP, I had a go at starting my own consulting firm called Embertech Solutions. This is where I employed 2 junior engineers to assist to deliver my projects. So my projects had some high-rise office, quite a bit of bushfire advising, there was some warehouse automation projects and the like. And after about a year or so, I found that financially I wasn't viable, and I did have to make the decision to close down Embertech Solutions, which I will discuss a little bit later on as well. I'd just like to speak more about that a bit later, as it's one of the achievements that I'd like to touch on. Even though it wasn't a successful business, there has been some key take-home notes which I'd like to touch on a bit later. So the main take from that is I felt that I'd like to get some international experience and start really learning international codes and see how things are done in a different regulatory landscape. I was fairly well versed in the performance realm and wanted to have a bit of a look how things were done in the prescriptive realm. So I came over to a place called BB7 for about a year, and I've been over at Osborne for about 6 months now. I've worked on such projects as high-risk buildings post-Grenfell. The Grenfell fire did have quite a considerable change on the way things are done in the UK, and it's been a very fortuitous time for me to work in the UK to learn how things are done. And I'd really like to take some of this knowledge back to Australia and share how things are being done over here in the UK post a major event. I've done an auditorium in Belfast, food hall in Birmingham, and a historic office refurbishment in Westminster, near the Westminster Abbey. So I've been able to travel around a bit and see many different buildings of many different ages. At BB7, I was line manager for 5 people, and at Osborne, I'm currently the Manchester lead and have 2 staff underneath me currently. So all in all, I've worked across a wide array of all types of building occupancies. Next, I'd like to touch on my key areas of expertise within the construction and building sector. So, as previously discussed, I have experience across a wide array of building types in regard to fire safety across both the Australian and UK regulatory landscapes. I've mentioned I've done some infrastructure work. I've done quite a lot of residential work. However, my passion does lie in evacuation modelling and CFD, computational fluid dynamics. So basically, this experience has given me a breadth of knowledge in both performance-based design and prescriptive design, which I feel does make an asset for me, especially in regards to the AIB. So regarding CFD modelling, I've done many different types of projects. So I've modelled a grandstands for egress evacuation modelling, 3,000 plus people. I've done warehouses galore. I've done residential smoke extraction systems, push-pull systems, and currently working on a basement ventilation extraction system. Secondary area of expertise for myself is my managerial skills. So have been managing people through from Affinity through to now. So that gives me more than 5 years at a supervisory level. I really do have a passion in mentoring. I like to listen without talking over to people. I like to really help them get to learn, as fire engineering is quite a broad discipline. It does take many years to master, not even all of the discipline. So being in that sort of managerial and supervisory role, I'm there as a support for the younger guys and girls, provide mentoring for them, share my journey about my chartership with Engineers Australia, and make sure that we're getting the most out of the guys and girls, and helping them stay accountable for their projects without putting too much pressure on them. So from there, I do work directly within the regulation space, and I do have a strong background in understanding regulations, especially now at the moment, the regulations in the UK and Australia. So that is the overarching umbrella for our construction and building sector, and I feel having a strong understanding of regulations really benefits me and my in my course for seeking chartership with AIB. I'd like to now describe a significant project I've worked on and my role in its delivery. So a significant project I worked on was the Level Crossing Removal Program, which is an initiative from the Victorian Government aimed at removing and upgrading 110 dangerous and congested level crossings. It's part of a larger infrastructure upgrade effort to improve rail safety, reduce traffic congestion, and enhance the reliability of rail operations. I used existing data to predict crush loads associated with passenger occupancy and crowd movement on trains over the next 50 years. By analysing historical passenger data, train frequency patterns, and expected population growth, I developed predictive models to estimate the number of passengers per train and the resulting crowd dynamics during peak usage periods. This involved interrogating crowd simulation techniques with data on train capacity, egress times, and safety standards. My work enabled the forecasting of future occupancy levels and potential risks associated with crush loads, ensuring that designs incorporated adequate safety margins for crowd management and passenger safety. These predictions were essential in informing the design of train stations and crossings to maintain safe and efficient operations as passenger demand increases over time. I implemented SFAIRP, so far is reasonably practical, methodologies to minimise risk associated with variations from the Australian Building Code, Metro Trains Melbourne standards, implementing stakeholder requirements. Due to the multidisciplinary nature of this project, I was afforded the opportunity to directly access the bulk of the project team to ensure my fire engineering requirements were adequately captured in the design. I was able to facilitate internal technical meetings with the other disciplines to ensure any discrepancies were ironed out in a timely fashion. This really gave me some good experience in the infrastructure, the improving of Melbourne, learning new fire engineering techniques, working within a new fire engineering team, and really expanding my knowledge and experience. I'd like to talk about how I ensure quality, safety, and compliance with my work, particularly in my local regulatory environment. So in regards to quality, I do implement a robust QA methodology where I review my own work from a QA perspective before requesting a final review. When undertaking reviews, I look for consistency, relevance, and adherence to performance requirements. I do feel it is valuable to QA your own work before sending it in, especially for formatting, typos, spelling mistakes, and grammar. However, this can slip through the process in QA when sometimes the QA is focusing on the technical aspect of the report. I do like to have my reports reading like a report. I'm of the opinion of this because if you have spelling mistakes or grammar in your report, the reader can question your competency, and without competency, your report may not be well taken. So I do ensure that my reports are looking like they're written by a competent person. So safety is the core of what I do day in, day out. I have a safety mindset. Everything I do day in, day out, it comes from a life safety perspective and how my designs can be constructed or designed from the designers, from my requirements, in a safe manner. I understand my solutions have a direct impact on safety on both the public and firefighters. In the UK, I ensure the prescriptive guidance is met, and we're adopting performance-based design to ensure acceptance criteria is relevant and applicable and robust. Compliance does tie into the above. Either the design is compliant or non-compliant. It's up to me to introduce methods to bring things to a compliant state. I'd like to talk about what professional achievements or milestones I'm most proud of. So first and foremost, I'm most proud of my Engineering Australia chartership. I worked very hard for that, dedicated many hours to learning my discipline, putting time aside for CPD activities, and ensuring that my application was well received and I was well prepared for the interview, much like this interview. From there, I was able to enlist in several bodies. From there, I enlisted in the Fire Risk Management Unit in Victoria for the DHHS, so where I was deemed competent to work on hospitals and the like. And also at the same time, I achieved PE in Victoria and RPE in Queensland. However, they're currently under pause due to me not having PI insurance as a result of working in the UK. However, on my return to Australia, I'll be looking at reinstating that both PE for Victoria and RPE in Queensland. However, I think my biggest professional achievement was starting Ambertech Solutions. It was being able to go out onto my own and use my own clients and contacts to drive work and deliver solutions. It enabled me to employ my own staff. And do things my own way, set my own hours. But as I spoke about earlier, Ambertech did fail from a financial perspective, and for me, the biggest milestone was to be able to dust myself off, get back up again, and continue on with my career. Move to the UK and learn a different suite of regulations. That way, when I do return to Australia, I have a stronger mindset and an understanding of both prescriptive and performance-based solutions. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about why I'm interested in becoming a member of the AIB. So I've accessed the website and read the aims, objectives, and the code of ethics, which they do closely align with my core beliefs. Especially we're encouraging the friendly exchange between fellows of knowledge of practical, technical, and ethical subjects. I do have a particular interest in ethics, and as I am a chartered engineer with Engineers Australia, I do have a strong sense of ethics and maintaining ethical behaviour, especially in regard to fire safety. I do understand that it does have very big impact on how a building is designed and the end use of the building. I also firmly believe in placing the welfare, health and safety of the community before sectional and private interests. That again does tie back into ethics. I have acknowledged the AIB handbook and do acknowledge the rules and the constitution, and I would like to confirm I accept these code of ethics, objects and obligations. Moreover, one of the main interests is I'm interested in expanding my network with like-minded professionals and helping them learn from my experiences. I really think having a strong network is important for an engineering professional, and I would like to increase that and have access to like-minded individuals, especially forming part of the AIB. My main interest, though, for coming through AIB is not only the recognition associated with it. AIB is, from my understanding, recognised by the CABE in the UK here. So I'm interested in, once gaining chartership with AIB, seeking mutual recognition from CABE to become CBuild-E, a chartered building engineer. Once I'm a chartered building engineer with CABE, I'm able to go to the UK Engineering Council and apply for CEng. So that will give me competent qualifications in both the UK and Australia. Now I'd like to discuss how I stay up to date with industry developments, both locally and internationally. So I do have a CPD register. I haven't provided as yet. However, I'm happy to send it through for your perusal. It is audited by Engineers Australia, and I actually have two CPD registers because some of the CPD I'm doing in the UK isn't applicable to Australia, and likewise some of the Australian CPD I'm doing that I've done or currently am doing is not applicable to the UK. So I am currently learning both Australian and UK items. My CPD register will also touch on areas that are required by Engineers Australia. There's a certain amount of management hours I need to achieve over a 3-year mark, and as well as a certain amount of hours on risk. So I'm able to provide my CPD register for your perusal to support my application here. However, it is relevant to both the UK and the Australian landscapes, and I dedicate an hour a week to furthering my studies and knowledge in regards to continual professional development. In this question, I'd like to discuss what ways I hope to contribute and benefit from the AIB membership. So first and foremost, I can contribute by providing sessions where I can compare UK regulations to the Australian regulations. I can highlight the differences between the both and identify where each method may have its shortcomings and may have its strengths. I feel this would be valuable information for those seeking this, and I would like to be able to record these sessions and upload them as available webinars for all those to view at their own viewing pleasure. So that's some webinars explaining the differences between Australian regulations and the UK regulations. However, as I am in the UK, there is a time difference here, which may make things challenging for me to attend webinars to speak. So where I may be able to assist is I could potentially pre-record webinar information and send that across. Not only can I do discussions about UK regulations and Australian regulations, I can also delve into some of my areas of expertise, such as CFD modelling, modelling intent, assumptions and limitations. I can also chat about mentoring and good ways for young people learning about management and wanting to get into supervisory roles and to assist them sometimes with maybe potentially challenging situations or people that may require a different tact when supervising and managing them. However, once I'm back in Australia, I'm able to connect with and organise speakers for events, and I also would like to volunteer to be MC at events, so I'm really excited. I do like public speaking. It is a passion of mine, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with speakers and helping organising events. So from that, I do advise that I will support any chapter activities to my best opportunity. I do hope to benefit my having access to a solid base of Australian knowledge to maintain my CPD. So that's one of the benefits that I do see with being in the AIB, having access to your knowledge database, your webinars, any recorded material, and your fellows. I also hope to feel like I am a part of something bigger that brings change to industry where needed. Change is constant. Sometimes there is a bit of a push for change. However, I'd like to benefit by feeling like I'm a part of something bigger and that my voice matters. I'd like to thank you for listening to me today. I did find this challenging to record myself talking. I do like interview person to person where you can bounce questions back and forth, and I feel that I may have cut some of the questions short, whereas if we were to talk face to face, you could ask me more questions about what I've done, probe into things that maybe make more sense. So please, I do implore you to view this with an open eye. And where you have any further questions, I'm happy for you to reach out and ask me further questions where you would like me to express myself more about certain items that I may have skimmed over. However, I did find this a little challenging and not the usual method for an interview process. So thank you for bearing with me, and I look forward to hearing back from you.